Some people collapse in silence because if they screamed, the truth would echo too loud to deny. They act calm. They smile at parties. They post selfies like life is golden. But something's off. You can feel it. And guess what? You're right. The pressure is mounting, the mask is slipping, and while they're busy pretending they're fine, deep down, they're crumbling, slowly, quietly, tragically. Before we dive in, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay close, because what we're about to unpack isn't just about them. It's about protecting your peace, your power, and your truth. Hey, folks, imagine this. Imagine a dam that looks strong on the outside. Cement, bricks, metal holding it together. But inside, tiny cracks are forming. You can't see them from the outside, but the pressure behind that wall, it's growing. And one day it doesn't explode with noise, it just splits, quietly, suddenly, and everything rushes out. That's what they're going through. You just can't see it, yet. See, my friends, when someone is truly cracking under pressure, they don't always cry for help. No, especially not the ones who used to act like they were too cool to care. Not the ones who left you like you were replaceable. Not the ones who once convinced themselves that cutting you off was healing. Those folks, they'll go out of their way to look okay. Because for them, image isn't just protection, it's survival. They don't want you to see the regret. They don't want you to see the fear creeping in late at night when no one's around. They don't want you to know that the silence you gave them is now the silence they can't escape. They'll laugh a little too loud, post a little too often, say they've moved on a little too quickly. That's not peace, my friend. That's performance. And I need you to stop believing the highlight reel. Just because someone looks okay doesn't mean they are. Just because they're posting pictures doesn't mean they're sleeping well. Just because they're smiling in public doesn't mean they're not breaking in private. That's the trick of emotional performance. Some people would rather fake strength than face their shame. But here's the truth they'll never say out loud. They feel it. They feel your absence. They feel the void where your love used to be. They feel the weight of decisions they thought would set them free. And now, that freedom feels hollow. My friends, your silence is louder than any closure they never gave. Your growth is more powerful than any explanation they withheld. And every time you chose peace over drama, healing over chasing, detachment over desperation, you taught them a lesson, one they're just starting to understand. Quiet regret hits harder than loud apologies. So if you've been wondering if they're truly okay, wonder no more. People don't always crack like glass. Sometimes they bend like metal, quietly under pressure, slowly warping in places no one sees, until one day they fold. Let them perform, let them pretend. You just keep becoming, keep healing, keep rising. And remember, it's not your job to catch someone who broke themselves running from the truth. Now here's your power move. Comment below this affirmation. I see through the silence. Let the world know. Let yourself know. Let them know. And if this hit home, smash that like button, subscribe for more truth, and stay with me, because what's coming next will open your eyes even wider. Let's go. Number 1, their eyes look alive, but they've gone numb inside. You can't always spot a breakdown. It wears a smile, makes eye contact, and says, "I'm fine." Some of the most broken people look the most put together. That's the sick irony of emotional pressure. It doesn't always show up as tears. Sometimes it shows up as overfunctioning, as robotic smiles, as polite nods, as someone saying, "I'm good," when what they really mean is, "I'm barely holding it together." My friends, if you've ever seen someone after a breakup or a fallout acting totally fine, too fine, you know what I mean. There's this blankness in their eyes. They laugh, but the laugh doesn't land. They talk, but they're not really there. You could be standing right in front of them, but it's like they've checked out. Their eyes look alive, but there's no soul in the room. And that, right there, that's one of the first hidden signs that someone's cracking under pressure. It's like watching a candle burn without a flame. The wax melts, time moves, the form still exists, but the light is gone. What you're seeing is the performance, not the person. The shell of someone who's trying desperately to keep it all together on the outside while inside something is unraveling. They might fool the world, but they can't fool energy. They can't fool the mirror. And they can't fool the silence that visits them when the music stops, the phone stops buzzing, and they're finally alone with the one person they've been running from, themselves. You might start asking yourself, but if they're hurting, why do they seem so composed? Because they've been trained, consciously or unconsciously, to equate emotion with weakness, vulnerability with danger. They were never taught how to process pain, only how to hide it. So when pressure builds, they don't open up, they shut down. They don't scream for help, they armor up, and they look you in the eye with a calmness that's terrifying because it's not real, it's survival. What's happening beneath that surface is a psychological war. One voice in their head is saying, "Act normal, you can't let them see you sweat." Another voice whispers, "Why does this still hurt?" And the third voice, the one they try to mute, is screaming, "You let something real slip away." But they won't say that. Not yet. Because if they admit that your absence is affecting them, they have to admit that their choices had consequences. They have to face the reality that detaching from you didn't bring the peace they promised themselves. That walking away didn't erase the emotional blueprint you left on their soul. So they pretend, they smile, they joke, they distract, they keep the conversation light, they focus on work, they go out more. But if you pay close attention, if you stop listening to what they say and start watching what they're avoiding, you'll see the cracks forming. You'll notice they struggle to hold eye contact when certain topics come up. You'll catch the delay in their answers when someone mentions your name. You'll hear the forced enthusiasm in their voice when they say they're doing great. Folks, the truth is, nobody has to pretend this hard unless something underneath is falling apart. And yet, many of you will doubt what you see. You'll gaslight yourself. You'll wonder, am I imagining this? No, you're not. You're just witnessing the collision between perception and truth. And the pressure they're feeling? It's not just regret, it's shame. Shame for how they handled things. Shame for how they pushed away someone who only wanted to love them. Shame for acting like you were disposable when now they feel the emptiness your presence once filled. And here's why this stage is hard to watch, because part of you might want to reach in, rescue, comfort, give them the words they can't say. But listen to me carefully. Don't. This moment, the numbness, the disconnection, the emotional void, is a rite of passage they must face. You can't feel it for them. You can't fix it. If you do, they don't learn. And worse, they don't change. The numbness you're seeing, that's the start of awareness. That's the part where the emotions they buried are starting to wake up, but they don't yet know how to handle them. And the very discomfort they're feeling, that's the consequence of your strength, your silence, your boundary. You didn't chase. You didn't explain yourself over and over. You didn't beg to be understood. You walked, and now they're sitting in the silence you left behind, wondering why the echo feels like a scream. It's easier for them to pretend, to hide, to perform, because if they told the truth, if they said, "I messed up, I miss you, I feel lost," they'd have to break the character they've been playing for so long. And some people are more loyal to their image than they are to their healing. But don't let the blank stares fool you. Don't let the steady voice or the calm exterior shake your knowing. The soul doesn't lie, and the energy doesn't lie. They feel it, even if they can't say it, even if they won't say it, yet. So hold the line. Don't chase the mask. Stand rooted in your truth. Keep building. Keep growing. Keep becoming. Because the version of you they couldn't appreciate back then, that version is now the one they can't stop remembering. Comment this now. I trust what I see. Let it be your mirror. Let it be your strength. Let it be your compass when their smile tries to rewrite the truth. You're not crazy. You're not too sensitive. You're not reading too deep. You're just finally awake. And stay with me, because in the next section, we're peeling back another layer. The irritation, the outbursts, the unpredictable storms, they're not just mood swings, they're signs the pressure is about to overflow. Number 2, they get irritated by the smallest things. You can hide sadness behind a smile, but frustration always finds a crack to leak through. They used to be chill, right? Cool-headed, calm, unbothered. They acted like nothing could rattle them, like they were floating above the drama, sipping detachment like tea. But now it's different. Now they're getting snappy over the tiniest things. A simple comment sets them off. A mutual friend mentions your name and suddenly they go quiet, change the subject, or lash out with some sarcastic jab. They're irritated, frustrated, and they don't know why. But you do, because when someone starts cracking under emotional pressure, it never explodes all at once. It starts with these subtle fractures in their behavior, the little ways their internal storm begins to spill out into the real world. And irritation, that's usually the first sign. Picture it like a pressure cooker. You can't see what's happening inside, but the heat's rising, the steam's building, and when the lid starts rattling, you know what's coming. Their irritation isn't about the surface-level stuff. It's not about the dishes, the traffic, the text you didn't reply to. It's about what they've been suppressing, the truth they're avoiding, the guilt they're trying to deny. My friends, unprocessed emotion doesn't just disappear. It hides. It morphs. It infects everything. And when someone tries to pretend they're not bothered by your absence, when they act like you were never important, like they're doing great, but deep down, they're spiraling. The mask starts slipping through emotion they can't control. Irritation. They'll snap at their friends, get cold with people they used to be warm with, passive-aggressive texts, little mood swings, a sudden cold shoulder, a sharp tone out of nowhere. That's not confidence, that's pressure, that's their nervous system glitching under the emotional load they swore they could carry with ease. And it might leave you confused. You might start asking, why are they acting like this now? Especially if they were the one who left, who ghosted, who claimed they needed space, freedom, peace. Weren't they supposed to be better off? Wasn't this what they wanted? Yes and no. See, they wanted peace, but they thought peace would come from distance, not from healing. They thought detachment meant power, that walking away meant freedom. But real peace doesn't come from avoiding emotions. It comes from facing them, and now that they're starting to feel the emotional cost of their decisions, they're not at peace. They're in turmoil, and it's showing up in the smallest cracks. They might not even realize it themselves. They'll think they're just tired or stressed out, or that everyone's being annoying. They won't admit that it's internal, that they're frustrated with themselves, that they're haunted by the silence they used to crave, that they scroll your social media late at night and feel something they can't name. They won't admit that they miss what they let go, that the peace they imagined feels empty. Because if they admit that, they have to confront the lie that they didn't care, the lie that walking away wouldn't hurt, the lie that detachment makes you stronger. It doesn't. Emotional avoidance doesn't build strength, it delays collapse. So now they're stuck between the image they're trying to uphold and the feelings they're trying to suppress. And that friction, it creates short tempers, mood shifts, irritability that seems out of character. But trust me, it's not random, It's a symptom. They're not mad at the world. They're mad at themselves. They're not angry at you. They're angry at how much they still feel you, and they don't know what to do with that. They told themselves they were fine, that they could move on without closure, that they could forget you like it was nothing. But now, their body is rejecting the lie. Their subconscious is rejecting the narrative, and that internal war is leaking into their behavior. It's like trying to hold your breath underwater. You can only do it for so long before you come up gasping. You might even catch wind of them talking about you, indirectly, sarcastically, defensively. They've changed. They're different now. They think they're too good. But listen carefully. Those words are laced with envy, with confusion, with the ache of someone who realizes they're no longer in control of the version of you they thought they knew. Your growth irritates them. Your silence frustrates them. Your healing burns them. Why? Because it exposes the fact that they're stuck, that they haven't evolved, that the distance didn't make them stronger. It just gave them more room to unravel in private. But let me tell you something powerful. Their irritation is proof that your absence matters. It's proof that the space you created with your silence, your boundaries, your detachment, it's working. Not because it's making them chase you, but because it's forcing them to face themselves. And that's the one thing they never wanted to do. They'd rather blame you than admit regret. They'd rather complain than confess. They'd rather snap at someone else than sit with their shame. But that's not your problem to fix. That's their growth to earn. So don't take it personally. Don't see their irritation as disrespect. See it as a signal, a crack in the wall, a sliver of truth breaking through the performance. And don't fall into the trap of softening your stance because they seem moody or sensitive. Stay grounded, stay firm. Because their emotional storm, it's not yours to walk through anymore. You already walked through enough of it when you loved them at their most unavailable. You already weathered the silence, the shutdowns, the deflections. This question mark, this is their turn to sit in the chaos. Comment this now. I see the cracks. Let it be your reminder. Let it be your clarity. Let it be your boundary. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world around you that you're done playing therapist to someone who never wanted healing until it was convenient, that you're no longer available for mixed signals and moody energy, that your peace is not up for negotiation. And stay with me, because in the next section, we're going deeper into the performance, the smiles, the stories, the happy posts. We're going to expose how joy can be faked, and how it always is when pressure becomes too loud to hide. Number 3, the overposting, oversmiling trap. When the heart is breaking but the ego is in charge, the mask becomes louder than the silence. They post like they've never been happier. New pictures, new captions, all smiles, all sunshine. Suddenly, they're a motivational speaker, a fitness guru, a self-love warrior, telling the world how healing looks on them. But here's the truth, my friends. Overposting is not proof of peace. It's a performance, a distraction, a trap designed not just to fool the world, but to fool themselves. Think of a house burning down on the inside. The walls are scorched, the floor is cracking, the air is thick with smoke. But outside, there's a welcome mat, a flower pot, fresh paint on the front door. That's how this kind of posting works. It's a way to scream, "I'm okay," when they're too scared to whisper, "I'm not." You know the ones. Their stories are suddenly packed. Coffee selfies with deep captions, gym check-ins, sunset shots with quotes like, "Sometimes you have to lose to win," or, "If they don't see your worth, walk away." They'll say it's for self-growth, but you know better. Those aren't declarations of power. Those are shields, emotional armor, digital coping mechanisms dressed up as confidence. But let me be clear, this isn't about shaming people for posting. Everyone uses social media to express themselves. What we're talking about here is when the posting becomes manic, when it feels forced, obsessive, out of character, Because when someone truly finds peace, they don't rush to prove it. They live it, quietly, calmly. Peace isn't loud, it's still. So why do they post like this? Because they lost control in real life, and they're trying to reclaim it online. They know they're no longer on your radar the way they once were, and that bothers them. Because even if they never admitted it, your attention was their drug. Your presence was their mirror. And now, with the mirror gone, they have to project an image back to themselves. Something, anything to believe that they're okay. They're trying to win a game that only they're playing, and every like, every comment, every looking good is just another sip of temporary relief. But deep down, they know the truth. Healing isn't aesthetic. Growth isn't a photo shoot. And pretending to be okay isn't the same as being okay. What's dangerous is how convincing the illusion can be. You might scroll and wonder, were they always this confident? Did they really move on that fast? That's the trap. That's the illusion. That's the ego playing dress-up. Let me ask you this. Why would someone who's truly content feel the need to overcompensate so loudly, so suddenly, so consistently? Because, folks, real peace is invisible. It doesn't have to explain itself. It doesn't need applause, and it damn sure doesn't need to prove a point. But when someone's cracking under pressure, when their guilt, regret, or confusion is growing, they don't know how to sit with it. So they run to distraction. And in today's world, that distraction is often digital. It's easier to edit a photo than to sit in silence. It's easier to write a self-love caption than to write a sincere apology. It's easier to post strength than to admit weakness. And let's talk about timing. Pay attention to when these posts start ramping up. Is it after you stopped reaching out? After you started glowing in your own lane? After they realized you're no longer available for the old version of them? That's not a coincidence. That's a reaction. That's panic in disguise. They don't want you to see them breaking, so they create a highlight reel of the life they wish they were living. But energy doesn't lie. No matter how bright the filters, there's a shadow in their eyes that no photo edit can erase. And if you look close enough, you'll see it. You'll see the stiffness in their smile, the tension behind their captions, the emptiness they're trying to fill with curated joy. They might even post things they know will reach you, intentionally. Cryptic quotes, favorite songs, inside jokes masked as randomness. They want to remind you that they're still here, still thriving, still unfazed. But here's what they don't realize. The need to be seen like that is already proof they're not over it. Because when someone is truly healed, they don't broadcast for the person they used to be with. They release them. They close the chapter and move forward, not loudly, not desperately, but peacefully. You might be tempted to engage, to comment, to message, to decode every post. Don't. That's what the ego wants. Your reaction gives them validation. It tells them you still care. But your silence, your lack of reaction, that's the loudest message of all. It says, I'm no longer playing this game. And trust me, that silence will rattle them more than any comment ever could. And here's what hurts them most. When they see you glowing without the need to post about it. When they notice your peace, your growth, your stillness, and realize it's real. No hashtags, no filters, just truth. That's when the pressure becomes unbearable, because now they're not just losing attention, they're losing comparison. And in their world, comparison is survival. But let me be clear again, this isn't your problem. You didn't ask them to perform. You didn't ask them to lose themselves trying to win a game of appearances. You chose truth. You chose growth. You chose stillness. And that's why you're free. So when you see the over-posting, the over-smiling, the curated confidence, don't buy the illusion. See it for what it is. An echo of someone who lost control and is now performing peace because they don't know how to build it. Comment this below. Peace doesn't need proof. Let it ground you. Let it guide you. Let it remind you that your healing isn't performative. It's powerful. You don't need to prove anything to anyone who couldn't see your value the first time. Show them, show yourself, show the world that true growth doesn't need a spotlight. It just needs consistency. And stay with me, because in the next section, we're exposing another shadow, not what they post, but what they avoid. The silence around certain people, certain conversations, certain memories. We're going to talk about what happens when someone starts hiding from those who see through them. Number 4, they're extra quiet around certain people. The loudest lies are the ones we tell with our silence. There's a shift, a weird quietness. They're still talking, still moving, still doing the usual, but not around everyone, not in every room, not with every person. Because the moment someone who truly knows them walks in, the volume drops, the energy shifts. They go from bold to careful, from expressive to tight-lipped, and you start to realize they're not quiet because they're at peace. They're quiet because they're afraid of being seen. That's one of the deepest signs they're cracking under pressure, folks. When they go mute around the ones who used to know their truth, the ones who saw what really happened behind closed doors, the friends who watched the connection fall apart, the ones who don't buy the performance. That's silence. That's not maturity. That's avoidance. Imagine standing in a courtroom and knowing one person in the crowd holds the evidence that could expose everything. That's how they treat those people now, with caution, with avoidance, with discomfort masked as distance. They won't talk about you around them. They won't ask about your name. They pretend your story doesn't exist, but it's written all over their nervous energy. And you know what's wild? These are the same people who once said, "I don't care what anyone thinks." Now they're filtering every word, every move, every glance. Because pressure isn't just about breaking down emotionally. It's about how much effort it takes to keep a lie alive. And keeping that image together in front of someone who knows better, that's exhausting. My friends, if someone truly moved on, they wouldn't need to censor your name. They wouldn't need to duck and dodge people who know the full story. They'd speak openly, freely, calmly. But instead, they shut down. They avoid certain gatherings. They suddenly don't talk to those people anymore. Not because they've outgrown them, but because those people became mirrors. Mirrors that reflect their guilt, their regret, their cracks. You'll hear about it secondhand, maybe from a mutual friend. It's weird. They get weird whenever your name comes up. Or they didn't say anything, just changed the subject. And you might wonder, why? If they're happy, if they're healed, if they were the one who walked away, why so quiet? Because they're not at peace. They're managing a narrative, and keeping up a narrative takes effort. It means constantly editing yourself, watching your words, avoiding certain triggers. But here's the problem with pretending for too long. Eventually, your body betrays you. Their hands fidget. Their eye contact breaks. They laugh at the wrong time. They shift in their seat. Their silence becomes so loud it drowns out the room. Not because they've matured, but because they don't trust themselves not to crack in front of the wrong witness. You see, silence isn't always strength. Sometimes silence is fear. Sometimes it's guilt's final hiding place, because saying your name out loud means acknowledging the story they tried to bury. And in the presence of truth-tellers, they know they can't fake the script anymore. They know those people remember. They remember how loved they were. They remember how they pulled away. They remember the version of them that took you for granted, then pretended it was self-love. And when the performance is too fragile to survive exposure, silence becomes the only defense. They might act cold, detached, aloof. But pay attention, those aren't boundaries. They're shields. They're escape hatches for people who don't know how to sit with the weight of their own reflection. And the reflection is loudest when someone who knows the real story is around. It's the coworker who used to see you two texting all day, the mutual friend who watched them pull away, the sibling who told them not to lose you, the one person who saw the real love and the real loss. And now they avoid those people like a fire alarm they can't silence, because one honest question could blow up the whole performance. But here's where it gets interesting. The more they avoid those people, the more the mask slips, the more the room feels it. Because silence doesn't protect your image, it exposes the emotional weight you're trying to deny. And when someone's silence becomes selective, when they're only quiet around those who remember you, that's not peace, that's pressure. And what's even more telling, sometimes they'll try to flip it. I just don't mess with those people anymore. They were always in our business. I outgrew them. But deep down, you know it's not evolution, it's evasion. Because avoiding people who tell the truth isn't growth, it's fear of being found out. They're not just avoiding others, they're avoiding themselves. The version of themselves they became when they had you, the person who felt safe, seen, stable. Now they're in rooms that feel hollow, conversations that feel staged. They're putting on a show for people who don't know what's really going on, and the more they perform, the more they feel like a stranger to their own reflection. But you see through it. You're not fooled by the stillness. You know that sometimes the quietest people are carrying the loudest regrets. That silence can be a disguise for inner chaos, and the less they say about you, the more it means. So don't interpret their quietness as peace. It's not grace, it's pressure. It's not dignity, it's fear. And the more they avoid the truth, the heavier it sits on their chest. Because pretending you're not a chapter in their life doesn't erase the fact that you were the whole book. Comment this now: silence reveals the truth. Let that be your compass when their words disappear. When mutual friends tell you they don't talk about it. When their feed is loud, but their soul is mute. Show them, show yourself. Show the world around you that you're not chasing performance, you're grounded in truth. And stay with me, because in the next section, we're peeling back another layer of the breakdown. The side comments, the sarcasm, the passive-aggressive texts. We're going to decode what happens when pressure turns into projection, and why their bitterness might be louder than their love ever was. Number 5. Passive-aggressive communication spikes. When people can't face their feelings directly, they leak through sarcasm, silence, and side comments. They won't say they miss you. They won't admit they're hurting. They won't own the pressure that's building up inside of them. But suddenly, they've got a lot to say. Just not in the way you expected. Not with clarity. Not with maturity. But with passive-aggressive shade, vague digs, and emotional static disguised as humor. My friends, this is one of the loudest signs that they're cracking, because passive aggression is the language of the emotionally cornered. When someone's drowning in the consequences of their own choices, but still too prideful to admit regret, their words get twisted, their tone gets sharp. Their texts carry this strange tension, just checking in messages that feel loaded, compliments that hit like jabs, jokes that aren't funny. They'll say things like, "Glad to see you're finally doing something with your life," or "Guess I wasn't good enough to motivate that version of you." It's not direct, but it stings, and that's the point. They're not trying to reconnect, they're trying to rattle you. This isn't about resolution, it's about reaction. Passive-aggressive people don't want peace, they want control without accountability. They want to feel like they still have a place in your mind, even if it's a bitter one. They want to keep the strings attached, not because they care, but because you slipping out of their hands terrifies them more than admitting they let something real go. And you know what's wild? Sometimes it doesn't even come directly from them. Sometimes it's through mutual friends. Suddenly they're telling people you've changed, that you think you're better now, that you're acting different. These little whisper campaigns aren't random, they're weapons. It's how they poke you without having to confront you, because confrontation would mean facing the truth, and the truth is heavy. The truth would expose their fear, their regret, their failure to handle you right. So instead, they throw shade in the shadows. You'll notice it in how they reply to your stories. Maybe they leave a weird emoji. Maybe they like a photo from 6 months ago, then nothing else. Maybe they send you a funny meme that's just a little too pointed. They're not saying what they really mean. They're hoping you'll decode it, hoping you'll respond, hoping you'll break the silence first so they don't have to. It's a mind game, and it's rooted in fear, because passive aggression isn't strength. It's emotional cowardice wearing a clever jacket. It's the voice of someone who can't say, "I'm sorry," so they say, "You're so sensitive." It's someone who can't say, "I miss you," so they say, "Don't worry, I'm doing fine without you." It's not clarity, it's confusion dressed up as confidence. And here's the real kicker. They're hoping you'll mirror it. They want you to play back, to clap back, to send a jab of your own, because that validates them. It means you still care. It means I still affect you. And if they can't be in your heart, they'll settle for being in your head. That's the desperation behind every shady message. They'd rather be resented than forgotten. But you've grown. You don't respond to breadcrumbs. You don't decode half-truths. You don't dance around the fire just to make someone who burned you feel warm again. Because you know this isn't about them being clever. It's about them being emotionally stuck. Their sarcasm is grief wearing a costume. Their indirect jabs are just regret that hasn't grown up yet. Let me paint you a metaphor. Imagine someone tossing a stone into a pond. They want to disturb the water. They want ripples. That's what their passive aggression is. It's the stone. They're hoping you'll ripple, that you'll break your peace to respond to their pain. But here's the power move. Stay still. Let the stone sink. Let the surface stay smooth. Let them drown in the silence they once used to control you. Because silence, when chosen, is stronger than words when weaponized. And if you do reply, if you feel the urge to confront, to call them out, to clear the air, pause. Ask yourself, is this for healing, or is this just to prove I'm right? Because people who throw passive-aggressive energy your way aren't looking for healing. They're looking for leverage, and they'll twist your words into another excuse to play the victim. And let's not forget, the root of all this is pressure. It's internal chaos leaking out sideways. It's the mental and emotional weight of pretending to be unbothered while quietly falling apart. They don't know how to say, "I'm hurting," so they say, "You think you're better than me now." They can't say, "I wish things ended differently," so they say, "Must be nice to finally grow up." They think they're being slick. They think they're in control. But deep down, they're screaming for clarity, for connection, for release, and they're doing it in the most indirect, disempowered way possible. But that's not your problem anymore. You're not here to babysit broken communication. You're not here to decode puzzles made out of pride. You're here to grow, to heal, to move. And every time you don't respond, every time you choose stillness over smoke, you reclaim your power. So next time you receive one of those shady comments, those weird texts, those cryptic posts that feel like they were written just for you, smile. Because what you're really seeing is someone who still feels your absence but can't say it with their chest. Someone who thought they'd be fine without you but can't stop reaching out through shadows. Comment this now. I don't respond to shadows. Let it be your shield. Let it be your peace. Let it be your line in the sand that you will not step over, not even for a clever insult, not even for a familiar tone. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world around you that you've graduated from emotional games, that you don't need to clap back to stand tall. That silence is your language now, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. And stay with me, because in the next section, We're moving beyond the words and into the body. The sleep changes, the eating shifts, the physical unraveling. We're going to uncover how emotional pressure always finds a way to show itself, especially when the mind won't admit it. Number 6. Their sleep, eating, or routine gets erratic. The body keeps the score, especially when the mind is still pretending nothing's wrong. You want to know if they're cracking? Don't just watch their words, watch their patterns, watch their sleep, their energy, their eyes. Watch how their routine, once so structured, starts to fray at the edges. How late nights become early mornings with no rest in between. How meals become skipped, rushed, or emotional. How the gym they bragged about going to every day becomes just another place they're avoiding. Because when someone's losing emotional control, the first thing that breaks is not the facade, it's the rhythm. See, the nervous system doesn't lie. The body is the place where all the unspoken emotions go to hide. And when someone is pushing down regret, guilt, sadness, fear, shame, confusion, it starts showing up physically. It starts stealing their rest, interrupting their hunger, breaking down their internal structure. At first, it seems small. They start staying up later, watching one more episode, scrolling until 3 a.m. Not because they're so happy and free, but because silence terrifies them. Because once the world goes to sleep, the noise in their own mind gets louder, and they're not ready to face it, so they distract. They numb, they scroll through strangers, searching for something to fill the space you used to occupy, but nothing fits, nothing lands, because nothing compares to what they threw away. And then comes the food, or the lack of it. Some lose their appetite altogether. Eating becomes a chore. Others eat too much, trying to swallow their feelings down, fill the hollow place where your energy used to live. They might say they're just trying a new diet or intermittent fasting. But watch closely. Is it discipline or is it dysregulation? Their whole schedule begins to bend. They miss appointments, cancel plans, forget things they used to stay on top of. They start showing up late, not just to events, but to their own life. Because when you're emotionally scattered, time becomes slippery. You either rush to escape the discomfort, or you freeze and let the hours melt around you. Either way, your body stops working with you and starts working against you. You might hear someone say, they've changed, they seem off. That's not growth, that's unraveling. And what makes this part so subtle, so often overlooked, is that it doesn't come with dramatic declarations. No tearful monologue, no "I miss you" text, just exhaustion. Just a worn-down version of someone who used to walk through life like they were untouchable. And now their body is betraying them in all the ways they refuse to let their emotions speak. They're tired, but they can't sleep. They're hungry, but they don't eat. They're free, but nothing feels satisfying. They thought they wanted space, but now the silence tastes like static. The freedom they fought for has become a maze of restlessness. And the more they pretend they're fine, the more their body tightens up. Because suppression is not peace, it's just a slow form of self-sabotage. You see, we are not built to carry emotion without release. We are not designed to pretend forever. Eventually, what we suppress finds another way to express. And if it's not through truth, it will be through tension. Some will try to hide it behind hyperproductivity. They'll dive into work, hustle harder, pick up new projects, post about grind culture. But even that becomes unsustainable, because you can't outrun emotional weight. Not with caffeine, not with workouts, not with to-do lists. Eventually, the cracks in their routine will start to reflect the cracks in their spirit. And here's the thing, my friend, they don't even know why it's happening. They can't connect the dots yet. They'll blame work stress, say they've just been busy, say they're fine, just a little tired. But deep down, they're unraveling, slowly, quietly, internally, and the body is just showing what the ego is too proud to admit. They might even look in the mirror and start to see it. The bags under their eyes, the slump in their posture, the look that says, "I'm here, but I'm not okay." And that scares them, because that reflection doesn't match the image they've been trying to project. The image of moving on, of leveling up, of not needing anyone, especially not you. But that lie is cracking now, not through tears, not through breakdowns, but through fatigue, through dysfunction, through the little signs that their world doesn't run the way it used to, not since you walked out of it. And what you must understand is this. This is not your invitation to fix them. This is not your cue to check in. You are not the emotional first aid for someone who ignored every signal when you were bleeding in front of them. You are not the medicine now that their sickness has surfaced. You are the mirror they shattered and are now haunted by. Let them sit in it. Let them wrestle with their own rhythms. Let them rebuild their schedule around their own accountability, not your emotional labor. Because their sleep schedule? It's not random. Their lack of appetite? It's not coincidence. Their broken routine? It's not chaos. It's consequence. The consequence of disconnecting from something that grounded them, from someone who stabilized them, from you. Comment this now. Energy doesn't lie. Say it for yourself. Say it for the ones still watching you. Say it for every time someone tried to hide behind fake peace and filtered smiles. Because while they're spiraling quietly behind the scenes, you are rising with clarity, purpose, and grounded peace. Show them, show yourself, show the world around you that healing isn't about pretending. It's about feeling. It's about staying in rhythm with your own truth, even when it hurts, even when it's hard. Even when the ones who once called your love too much are now suffocating in the silence you left behind. And stay with me, because in the next section, we're diving into the war inside their mind, the broken stories, the narrative flips. One day you're the villain, the next you're the one who got away. We're about to expose what happens when regret rewrites the script. Number 7. Their story about you keeps changing. When people can't face the truth, they rewrite the story just to live with themselves. First, they said you were the problem, too much, too emotional, too intense. You loved too deep, gave too much, needed too often. That's what they told themselves when they walked away. That's what they repeated to friends, to anyone who asked, and maybe, for a while, even to themselves. It was easier that way. Easier to blame you than to face the mirror. Easier to paint you as the storm than to admit they were the one who pulled the lightning in. But now the script is breaking. The lines aren't landing. The mask is slipping. And their story about you? It's starting to shift. One day, you're the villain, the one who drained them, the one who didn't understand them, the one who changed. And then suddenly, you're the memory, the good one, the real one. The "if only I had done it differently" story they quietly carry into new conversations, new connections, new distractions. This is what happens when pressure meets regret, when the narrative they built to survive no longer holds up against the weight of their own conscience. They start reworking the plot, bending the truth just enough so they don't have to admit the most terrifying thing of all, that you were never the problem. They were. You'll hear it in passing, through mutual friends, or maybe directly in strange, uninvited texts. You always meant well. I know I was hard to deal with. I didn't know how to handle someone like you. And just like that, the same person who once claimed you were too much now hints that maybe you were exactly what they needed. But here's where it gets messy, because they won't say this all at once. They'll flip-flop. One moment they're resentful, the next they're nostalgic. One week they ignore your existence, the next they're posting sad lyrics that sound a little too familiar. This inconsistency isn't random, It's not just mood swings. It's the result of a collapsing narrative. They can't keep the lies straight anymore because the version of you they pushed away, the strong, grounded, loving version, is the same version they now secretly miss. It eats at them, slowly, quietly, because their ego still wants to be right, but their soul knows they were wrong. So they start rewriting the past in pieces, telling themselves half-truths like, "We weren't right for each other back then," or "maybe in another life." It's their way of coping with what they lost without fully taking accountability. They soften their story about you, not for your sake, but for theirs, because hatred is easy to carry when the guilt hasn't kicked in. But once the silence stretches too long, once they see you rising without them, that's when their script starts to unravel. And if you're not careful, their shifting story can start to affect your own. You might begin to question what happened. Wonder if maybe they're right. Maybe you were too reactive. Maybe you expected too much. Maybe you should have tried harder. That's the danger of revisionism. It infects you if you're not grounded in your own truth. But I'm here to remind you of what they won't. You were not the problem. You were the mirror. And mirrors make people uncomfortable when they're not ready to face themselves. Their story about you keeps changing because they're changing, but not in the way they pretend. They're unraveling, they're regretting, they're being haunted by the decisions they swore would bring them peace. And now they're trying to rewrite the ending to a story they thought they were done with. But it doesn't work that way. Life doesn't give you peace for pretending. It gives you peace for taking ownership. And they haven't earned that peace yet. So don't fall for the nostalgia. Don't get pulled into the revision. Just because someone remembers you differently now doesn't mean they're ready to love you properly. Just because they've stopped calling you the villain doesn't mean they're ready to become the hero of their own healing. People will tell any story to protect themselves from the pain of knowing they let something beautiful die, that they fumbled something rare, that they watched a real one walk away and didn't even try to stop it. That kind of truth is sharp. It cuts deep. And the only anesthetic some people know is denial. But here's what they can't deny. Your growth is undeniable. Your glow is louder than their silence. Your boundaries, your peace, your absence. They've rewritten their life more than any breakup post could ever do. You became the unspoken chapter they can't stop referencing, even when they don't say your name. So when their story shifts, when they say you changed, or you were always solid, or I didn't know what I had, don't confuse that with readiness. Don't mistake reflection for transformation. It takes more than memory to be worthy of your presence again. It takes change, real change. And real change doesn't speak in riddles. It speaks in actions, in consistency, in full truth, not half blame. You're not a character in someone else's guilt trip. You're not the subplot in someone else's lesson. You were the real thing. You are the real thing. And their inability to recognize that the first time, that's not your burden to carry. So if they reach out, stay grounded. If they send mixed signals, stay clear. If they shift the story, stay firm. Because you don't need their approval to validate your journey. And you don't need their apology to confirm your worth. You already know the truth. Comment this now. I know my story. Write it loud. Write it for yourself. Write it so the next time their narrative wobbles, you won't wobble with it. Let the world know that your identity isn't up for debate. Your peace isn't up for negotiation. And your truth doesn't change just because someone else's memory does. Show them, show yourself, show the world around you that you're no longer waiting for them to tell the right story. You've moved on to write a better one with peace, with strength, with full clarity. And that's how this ends, not with them rewriting the past, but with you reclaiming your power. The chapter is closed. The story is yours. Let them remember however they need to. But you move forward, unshaken, unbothered, unapologetically free.